Well, what episode is this?
6.
Oh, that's the clip for before the theme tune then. Hello and welcome to Paranormality episode 6. As always, I'm Harry and I'm here with James, who's just sipping some tea.
Hello there.
And this week we are joined by one of my favourite human beings in the entire world.
Shut up, you.
His name is Duncan. Hello, Duncan.
Hi, hello, Harry and James.
I don't know you well enough to form an opinion yet.
Oh, okay. We've been chatting for 15 minutes, so I thought
Best friends.
It's not long enough.
that'll do for
20
me.
minutes is the cut-off time
Yeah,
for
yeah.
when he can
Right
form
there.
an opinion.
Right
So
there.
5 minutes into this recording, James, if you can just be like, I like him, or nah, just blurt it out, let us know what you think.
I can take it as long as it's nice. That's fine. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's all I do. That's all I do.
Cool,
Thanks.
fine. Lay it on me.
Me and Duncan worked together, and we did a previous podcast together, and he is genuinely one of my favourite people. And when we were talking about paranormal stuff, you believe very much in the paranormal, so it sort of made sense to bring you on.
Yes, 100%.
Absolutely.
And you love Ghostbusters, so, you know.
I do like, you see me on my little Ghostbusters
Yeah.
thing there.
Is that the
you know,
Kristen Wiig movie?
Shut up. I don't like you, man.
I'm going to do the intro, and I'm going to try and calm things down. So, as always, I've got to do the social media spiel. If you enjoy this episode, give us a follow, subscribe to us on your podcast platform of choice, follow us on Twitter, we are PodNormality. You can find us on Facebook, Paranormality Podcast, and guys, you can also follow us on TikTok, and we are Paranormality Podcast on TikTok. Don't ask me why I've done it. Apparently it's good for the metrics.
Well, yeah, you've got to do it these days, isn't you?
I can't help
Oh,
but feel
God.
with Steve Buscemi right now. You know, hello there, fellow kids.
This is with skateboards here.
Yes. Just a big iPad with TikTok on it.
I genuinely felt a bit dirty when I signed up for it. I'm 30. I should not be trying to work out what's
Yeah.
going to be good on TikTok.
Right.
It was this very clear defining moment earlier today where I was Googling spooky TikTok songs, and my brain just was
Trending.
like, nope.
What's a
Yeah.
trending sound effect?
What's a
Awful.
hashtag?
I did find the piece of music that I was after though, so it's fine.
Oh, good. Congrats.
But yeah, we're going to jump straight into. It's not going to be ghosts to start with, because yesterday, from today's recording, James Fox, UAP documentarian, the guy who did the film about the alien walking around in Brazil, he had an Area 51 worker, as he calls him, and he's apparently verified him. This guy is legit. He does work at Area 51. There are pictures of him in Congress at the UAP, the UAP committee, actually giving evidence to select committee members. So the guy is legit, but he's under an NDA. So he asked James Fox to read out the following transcript. I'm going to read it out, and then we'll have a very quick chat about it afterwards. I'll warn you guys, though, there's a lot of words here, and not a lot is said. So, following on. Oh, by the way, I'm going to say hello, James. James Fox, not James Paranormality. Hello, James. Just wanted to give you a quick shot of the involvement I've had with UAPs. I was introduced to a program while I was in the Air Force that involved Area 51 activities, and did that for roughly 2 or 3 years. My job involved going to a lot of different locations and hearing discussions from a lot of people that are working on very extraordinary technologies and materials. Jumping forward to October of last year, I'd already been interviewed by the UAP task force to testify in 2022 with the Senate and the House, who are currently in the process of passing the new NDAA legislations. I provided them the context of my job and what I had experienced in an effort to give Congress more clarity on the program, which has been difficult to get insight into. After my testimony, I was asked to speak to the AARO organization. So earlier this year, I interviewed at the ARROW office to help them in the study of UAPs. It's been an extraordinary road for me, to say the least, and I'm doing what I can in the hope that I can get this out. I'll be straightforward. The tech that is discovered will have to stay under classified programs due to national security reasons, but I believe it is time for all of us to know that we are not alone. This has been my whole purpose for becoming involved. There is a lot going on behind the scenes, and it's way too much for a lot of the folks to take in right now. I will do my best to guide any discussion behind the powers that are behind all of this, and hopefully my friends who are still in the program will hear this and hopefully separate the technologies from the contact. I wish you all well. I hope I'll have an opportunity to open up the discussion of what this is very soon. That is the big statement. How do we all feel about those empty words?
I can't say it's been 5 minutes and I like him.
There we go.
It sounds like a college cover letter. You know, like if you're applying for uni and stuff. There was nothing, like you said, nothing said about what he saw. It was just what he got up to.
It reads like how I imagine mediums kind of come up with their bullshit thing. So I think mediums are bullshit, but I believe in ghosts. But it's like, well, if you're trying to whistle blow, but I can't tell you this bit though. They're real though.
Yeah.
But I can't let you know. Just say it or don't, mate. Come on.
Yeah.
Don't if you want to be all we deserve to know the truth. Tell us then, lads.
Tell us the truth.
Yeah.
Actually, tell us the truth on this.
It's a half truth. It's a nothing truth. Generally, think it's just a lot of bullshit. Like it just comes across as scripted.
Yeah. Well, apparently, James Fox has said is that they did get sent something initially, and then they redrafted it, and then from that draft that James and this whistleblower have worked on, that is the statement that they've released. So that's why it does sound a bit scripted, is because it's gone through multiple iterations to apparently be as sort of user-friendly as possible. For me, the guy obviously does work in the government. Just say what you want to say. I know that the guy's under an NDA, but like we spoke about last week, and Logan Paul having the recording of the best UFO evidence of all time, we'll show it to us. Logan Paul did a podcast yesterday. Funny that, innit? Did an entire podcast on this UFO video. Didn't show it, just talked about it.
It's when he says here, it's way too much for a lot of folks to take in right now. It's like, you're not doing us a favour. Something about it just feels a bit disingenuous to me.
Don't assume our intelligence, thank you.
Yeah.
If you have evidence of aliens, if you have evidence like Logan Paul says he has, but it's not the right time to release it, or this guy who can show evidence and proof of we are not alone in his own words, show it to us.
Prove it.
Show us the evidence.
Yeah, it's like that guy, is it Bob Lazaro? The guy in the video says, like, I've got evidence in a locker back in the back of my house, but I'm not going to show you. Like,
George Knapp says that.
Proves,
yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that proves nothing.
Oh, there's a video I took of Bob Lazar where he's making element 115 float around, and it's bending light and it's curving gravity. But I don't know where I put the video. That's his actual excuse.
Shame.
I don't know where I put the video. I've lost it. Evidence of alien technology.
Yeah. It's actually the fifth ending from Return of the King. Like that video. It was just unbelievable. But yeah, no, it stinks of people trying to be famous again. And like, you can work at Area 51, but you might just be like an admin. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
You're the janitor.
Yeah, the vending machine fitter guy.
Just calling from accounts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just frustrating because every time, and I spoke about this last week, James, every time there's this huge, massive, important bit of news, it's always because one person doesn't want to release it.
I know.
First, it was Chuck Clark. He doesn't want to release the video. Then it's Logan Paul. He doesn't want to release the video yet. Ooh. When the time's right, he'll release it. Probably after he's done 7 more podcast episodes.
When he's got the right
Probably after he's fought a couple of other YouTubers, and then
president.
Smacked Rey Mysterio with a chair or something, and then he'll be like, the time's right, guys. And like you said, the video will be his WWE entrance.
Yeah.
It's just
on the big screen in the back.
Will be as well, yeah.
Now again, we've got this one guy, this whistleblower, that's out there saying, guys, I know completely that UFOs exist and aliens are real, but I just don't think that you're all ready to hear it, man. Like, it might blow your mind too much that I need to be careful. Shut up.
To me,
show it to us.
To me, it just sounds like his rent's gone up, so he just needs to get his name out there a bit more. It's
cost of living is affecting everybody.
Everyone. Yeah, and it's just he's not the first person to come out and go, do you know what, aliens exist, man? Like, we are not. He's He's 1 in 1,000. You know,
He could
I
be
bet.
the first to show evidence.
go
I
home.
bet you could load up Chat GPT and put in write me a press release telling people there's aliens that exist without telling anything, and it'll be word for word the same bullshit that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you put them all in, if you put all the lines in line, it goes never going to give you up for each first of the. I know, it's just stinks. Yeah, it just stinks of it, man.
It just doesn't do anything for me. So yeah, I didn't want to harp on that too long because I think we're all in agreement. Nothing has been said, so we have nothing to say about it.
I certify that as dog doo-doo.
Certified dog doo-doo. We'll move on from that absolute nothing burger, and we'll talk about something a bit different. We've wanted to get into this a little bit more. Me and James, when we started this, we didn't just want the show to be UFOs. We did want to move into folklore, paranormal activities. We wanted to look at cryptids, and we do want to do like haunted house episodes, and maybe even go down like hauntings and murders and stuff. Who knows? But Duncan, you're like the perfect person to bring on because you are someone who has a very strong belief in the paranormal.
Yeah.
So did you want to sort of start telling us how that belief came about? And sort of where it's gone?
So it's funny because I'm much more of a ghost believer than I am aliens. Like I think I'm agnostic towards the idea of aliens. Like I love the idea that there's something there. I don't think I've ever seen anything that's really I'm like, hell, yeah, they do exist. Whereas I'm fairly sure I've read into enough ghost stuff. I've had my own experience with ghosts. I'm completely convinced, but I'm very much, and I said this to you yesterday, I think, Harry, where I was like, there's no way we can be that ignorant to think that what is our plane of existence, or whatever you want to call it, is
everything that there is.
So very much kind of. I mean, I don't believe in God, for example. But you introduced me to a book, Harry, The Immortality Key. I know you've got it in the script when you kind of explained to me about when people taking ayahuasca, and like the opening chapter of that book, the intro, and the guy says everyone who takes the same drug in the Peruvian forest or whatever, they all see this same massive cobra.
Graham Hancock does the foreword for it. He's got also the Netflix documentary about the ancient civilizations.
Yeah. So, like, I mean that stuff I find so deeply fascinating. I always think it'd be a shame to be like so dismissive of it because it's so interesting and it's a bit more excitement to life. But for Ghost, for example, I think I had a couple of experiences years ago. There weren't anything to write home about. I'll talk about my proper ones in a bit. I had like one in Hampton Court where I saw a ghost in a mirror, but at the time I was like, probably could be a touristy thing. And then I did some old YouTube videos years ago, just some silly dance videos when I was 16. And my mate's granddad died, so he kind of had his chair, and we saw orbs coming out of the chair. We were like, but it could be dust. So, but I've always been open to the idea. And then in the first lockdown, I found this YouTube channel called Nuke's Top 5. And I'm watching some of them, and they're just like, it's just like a ghost clip channel. But some of the things are so compelling, and some are easily explainable, but you can debunk them kind of fairly easily. But yeah, we'll talk about it in a bit. But I've had four, like I believe nailed on ghost experiences now. In the past in the past decade anyway.
I've always said this. I never used to be a believer in ghosts at all. I was completely dismissive of it. But yeah, I'll turn around and say like I 100% believe in UFOs. Personally, my belief in UFOs isn't alien life, isn't little green men. It's very, very different. We're going to talk about it next week when we discuss the film Nope. But I've got an idea in my mind that sort of UAPs and UFOs are very, very heavily linked to consciousness and about the human psyche and the human mind. I'm glad you brought up The Immortality Key because I love that book. If anyone hasn't read it and they're interested in sort of the start of the explosion of information within the human brain that's linked to like DMT, dimethyltryptamine. I would guarantee that you would enjoy that book, because I have had a few trips, nothing, not in a shaman's hut in the middle of the Amazon rainforest on ayahuasca, but I've had a few trips, and I remember one specifically with a friend of mine, when we both saw the same thing, and it was this entity type thing, and I had a chat with, like, not an actual conversation with it, but I could feel that it knew me and I knew it, and we had this very intense moment that it probably only lasted 5 seconds, but it felt like it lasted hours. And apparently my friend at the time also saw this same thing, like this shared consciousness that we all have. And it's through me looking into UAPs and UFOs, and then looking into like early civilizations and looking into what the mind can do when it's sort of unlocked a slightly higher level of consciousness, that I started to think, well, why would ghosts be any different? Why, like I've said to Duncan yesterday, there's more stars in the Milky Way galaxy than there are grains of sand on every beach in the world. It would be ignorant to think that there's nothing else out there. But also, another way of looking at this from a sort of slightly nerdy sciencey way is that we only visually see 4% of our universe. 96% of everything that is around us is dark energy and dark matter, and we physically can't see the stuff. We don't know what it is. It's
also,
there.
that's just what we're told. Sorry, like, we're told we only can see 4%. We're told, but who, like, that could just be another.
Yeah.
I'm not disproving. I'm trying to be like, it's like a devil's advocate here. Like,
We see a very minuscule thing, and even with the light that we see, we don't see everything. If you're a bird, you see infrared, and you see ultraviolet, and you see so much more of the light spectrum than we do. And if you think how different every area of consciousness is, and then think about every human that has ever existed, and think about how different people are on different levels of consciousness. Why is it that people that believe in ghosts see ghosts? Probably because they consciously believe in them and they see them. Why do some people get hypnotized and some people don't? Hypnotism doesn't work on everyone. You have to believe in hypnotism to be hypnotized. Why do people that believe in UFOs always see UFOs? Because they consciously believe in them. So I've completely changed my mind on ghosts. We'll talk about a story that my partner had about 2 years ago that massively changed my mind. But yeah, I'm well of the opinion that there is stuff there that we just can't understand, and we never will understand probably. And ghosts is one of those things I've completely switched my mind on that. What about yourself, James?
It depends. Like, I think personal experience is huge when it comes to this, and like you, Duncan, I'm not a huge religion's terrible, but I kind of like faith. I like the idea of faith in something and the belief in something. I think that would be very powerful, and joint experiences can happen. You just being alone with someone, like you could just experience the same things, and those trip drugs, they're just opening synapses in the head that were previously closed, and God knows, God knows, ironic, but who knows what
Faith
happens when faith knows, right? George Michael's version, not the Limp Bizkit one, but you just don't know what you're going to see because you're just so limited. I think it goes beyond science at that point. Like, science can only explain a certain percentile of it, and beyond that, it's just it's the unknown. And like you said, if you believe it, that's there's no false in that if you believe it. That's what you believe.
I remember when Harry told me about that book, and about how it's probably drugs that kind of unlock the thing in your head that enables you to see all this stuff. Because not long after that, a really close mate of mine, but he's a devout Christian, and he was explaining to me kind of and how he how he kind of like found God. And I say to him, I'm like, I don't believe in God, but I believe you believe in God. It's a real kind of weird way of saying it. But then he kind of told me a story, and he was like really, really heavily into drugs, like life-ruining levels of drugs. And he said, like, he was reading a Bible one day, and he said, all of a sudden, I just felt this wave of kind of energy rush over me. And ever since then, he's like, that's God. But then he reminded me, the only other person in my life that because I'm not a Christian, I don't kind of hang around with, I don't hang around churches. So kind of lots of my friends have the same beliefs as me. But then I remember a guy that I knew years ago, like 20 odd years ago, the same thing. One day he turned up and he was just like, I believe in God. Like, that's it. God's real. I was like, what happened? He's like, I was tripping so badly, and then all of a sudden God found me. And it's just really interesting. So when Harry told me about that, I was like, oh my God, yeah, like the only two kind of real life experiences I've got of people who have found God are both were heavily influenced by drugs to get to that point. So that's the thing that I do believe in, is that there is something to do with substances or
Altered
whatever.
states of consciousness.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
unlocks a thing.
Yeah, you not to compare, because I've don't want to sound mean, but you'd be amazed the comparison between like mental health and extreme like faith as well, and like religious beliefs. It goes kind of hand in hand.
Yeah,
a lot of the time as well, and it's come to the point, I think, of desperation, and they need to believe in something bigger and more powerful. Yeah. And like you said, faith. Well, we both said faith can be good, and that guy believes in God. That's great. If it works for him. Same with all of what we talk about now. If you believe in ghosts and believe in it wholeheartedly, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it can be quite beautiful, really.
Yes,
I think
exactly like it says in Immortality Key. And I remember you telling me that story about the chap who, like, literally overnight changed his mind and he felt that wave. The things that the entities that are described, they're called machine elves. That's what they've been called. So they look like elven-like creatures, but mechanical. And that machine elves is the term for them. And even if you go back to early Christianity, Old Testament, Moses seeing the burning bush was probably an acacia bush. Acacia is a natural creator of DMT. Acacia has DMT in it. You think of a guy wandering through the desert and the scorching heat sets alight to a bush that's filled with DMT. What happened? Moses saw God. He saw entities in front of him. It's that's my belief in ghosts and UFOs. I don't believe in God personally myself, but like you say, I believe people when they believe in God, because it's all very similar, and I think it's all linked back to consciously believing in it. I consciously believe in UFOs. I've seen UFOs. Duncan, you consciously believe in ghosts. You have had experiences with ghosts. Some people consciously believe in God and they see God. And I think it's very, very linked between like faith and paranormal things. But I'm really interested to move on to your actual experiences, Duncan, because, well, what I'll do first, you were in London a couple of weeks ago, weren't you?
Yeah, about a month ago. Yeah, 3 weeks.
I've just sent James the picture. So do you want to describe what happened?
So we got up really early to go to London for George's birthday, and we got to Paddington. We were like, let's take a quick picture to just to commemorate us being here. And I'm not one of these people that puts my arm round my wife over her shoulder. So if you look at her left shoulder, I think you can see a hand. It's not my hand.
Well, Duncan's hand.
And there's
nobody around.
Unless you're Mr. Fantastic, that is not your hand.
No, and so we got a few pictures because we're not going to get there for rush hour. We're not that stupid. So there wasn't hardly anyone near us. And then, but yeah, because the next picture, I'm even further away, and I lost it. George is like, oh, that's weird, isn't it? I'm like, yeah, he's and I'm like freaking out. I'm like, this is the first time I've had ghosts off. This is the first time I've actually seen like a thing. And she's like, yeah, cool as a cucumber.
You sent me that photo.
Happens all the time.
Yeah. Oh, it's Al.
You sent me that photo, and the first thing I did was I went online and I looked up images of Paddington Station to find the sign that you were stood in front of.
Yeah.
And I found the sign that you were stood in front of, and what some people might think is, well, her hair is just in a certain way that's created an illusion of something behind it that happens to be flesh-coloured that makes it look like a hand, and that's how you could describe it. That doesn't exist behind her.
No.
It's white wall.
And we got a few pictures one after the other, so there was no way for someone to come in, just take a picture and be like, oh, I'm in there, guys.
Yeah.
Weird, man. Totally freaky, that. It was a great trip as well, so thanks for the good charm, Ghost.
I didn't feel good.
It's weird. Like, that's the thing. Like, if you'd shown me this 5 years ago, and I've been like, so what? Like, whatever. But you consciously have this real belief in this stuff,
Yeah.
and it's there for you to see.
And it's not like
very strange.
It's not like I believe in ghosts to the point where I go out looking for them all the time. Because every now and then I say to George, I'm like, I'm just going to go watch ghost videos in the bath. And I'll pop on a YouTube video and sit there like that and scare myself before beds. But I'm not obsessed with ghosts to the point where I'm just like looking for it. So when we did the picture, I was like, all right.
So I just imagine the bathroom Freddy Krueger hand come out. So I just thought,
well, my partner Shannon, her mum is obsessed with ghosts. Like, it's her jam, it's her bread and butter. She has gone to haunted hotels. She's gone to haunted mansions. She went to Bodmin Jail to stay there a few months ago because it's haunted. And then she went on the tour, the dungeon
tour.
Though.
It's lovely.
I know. There was a pigeon there that had bird flu, and I think they had to kick it to death. But
if the ghosts don't scare you, the bill will.
Is that part of the experience? Is that extra to kick a bird to death?
But yeah, like, she is obsessed with ghosts and obsessed with haunted houses. And like, we went to Cornwall a few months ago for our eldest's birthday, and she came down for the day because she was like, the Jamaica Inn is near you and it's haunted and we have to go there for lunch. So we went to the Jamaica Inn and we read all about the spirits that live there and went to the gift shop, obviously. But she is well into ghosts, and she's had so many experiences. And it's funny because we've always we've not dismissed it, but she's obsessed with ghosts. She loves them. Like, if you go into a house at any one point, she'll have like the History Channel on, or I don't know, UK TV Gold, watching something about ghosts.
Most Haunted.
And yeah, Most Haunted she loves. It's weird. Derek Akora's ghosts
Mary loves
always
dick.
had a weird Scouse accent. But yeah, she's well into that stuff. And so my missus isn't massively into ghosts and stuff because her mum's been brought up around it, and it's been a constant thing in her life. But I wanted to share an experience she had that completely changed her mind. So my partner, she worked in care homes up until very recently, dealing with elderly Alzheimer's patients and disabled patients. And at one point she was on agency because it's more money, a bit more flexible. Why not? So she went on agency and she was traveling all over Devon, going to these awful old decrepit care homes made from like 14th century barns where they just shove all these oldies in. And she went to a particular home just outside of Exeter, and the night before she had worked there, one of the elderly residents sadly passed away. And it happens a lot. Shannon's been around death for the last few years with the job that she's in. It's a sad part of a job that she has to do and she has to deal with. So the night before, this person had passed away sadly in their room. So the room was completely sealed off. There was no one in there. The coroner had been taken the body, empty room. So it's like 3 o'clock in the morning because she does night shifts. It was like 3 in the morning, and there was 3 of them on shift. There was her working the middle floor. There was 2 other staff that work at that home full time, and they all had walkie-talkies to talk to each other. And she started to hear the bell for the room where the person had died ringing. She thought, that's really weird. Who is in that room ringing that bell? She thought it was one of the other 2 people. So she called down to the girl who was on the floor below her and said, Jane, are you in the room? Are you calling the bell? And no, it's not me. I said, all right, okay, well, let's go upstairs. It's a bit weird. I don't want to go in there on my own, so we'll both go in there and we'll see what's going on. So they go into the room and they turn the light on, and there's nobody in the room, but the bell keeps ringing. So they're sort of looking around thinking, who is in this room? Who's not just pressed it once, like pressing it, continuously pressing this bell? Is it maybe malfunctioning? Do we have to unplug the thing? So as it's just awful. As the other woman goes to turn the alarm off, out of nowhere, the light just shuts off and then turns back on. And then the cupboard doors slam open and slam shut and slam open and slam shut. And they just book it out of there as fast as they can.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, she is petrified. Like, all of the life has come out of Shannon, and she is absolutely terrified. And she can't explain what's going on. but the windows are shut. There's no draft coming through. It's not like a gust has blown the stuff open, but all at once, lights turn off, the alarm goes off, the cupboard door starts swinging open, violently swinging open, and they run out and they call to the other person who's working, and they think, this idiot's in the room. What the hell is going on? So they call down to him and they're like, where are you? What are you doing? The room in 304. This has just happened. And he's like, I'm downstairs peeling potatoes. I don't know what you're talking about. So he was like 3 floors below them. There was nobody in that room. There was nothing in there. They went back upstairs. Cupboard doors are shut again. Alarms turned off. Lights turned on. So they leave the room. Cupboard doors open. Lights off. They go back. Lights are all on. Cupboard doors shut. And they just shut the door. And she never worked there again. And she was speaking to someone who worked at that home, and they're like, oh yeah, we've had a few instances of people dying in that room and weird stuff happening. And she came home and told me this, and we were trying to rationalize it. I was like, well, maybe the window is open. And she's like, the window was not open. So, well, maybe a breeze came through the home. And she's like, there was no breeze. There was no way that someone physically moved those things. Something did. And I was like, no, don't be silly. That never happened. And she looked at me like dead in the eyes. And it was like she was experiencing it all over again. And she was like, I don't know what happened. But she didn't want to say it was a ghost, but she was just like, something very angry happened in that room while we were there. And it was almost as if there was something telling them, leave, go away. I don't want you here.
See, I 100% believe that, because that's so common, like that kind of thing. And I feel like quite hypocritical when I say like I don't believe in God. I feel like things like that, when it's like a fresh corpse, like a freshly deceased person's. I always feel like there's they're like lashing out because the ghosts themselves are confused. I sound like a right weird right.
I know what you mean.
But
the thing is Alzheimer patients do that. They lash out. They get angry and aggressive when they don't know what's going on.
Yeah. And I think it's what it is. They're confused. So before I talk about my experiences, the worst thing like that to do with kind of like passing on. I don't know if you've ever heard this murder case by a guy called Chris Watts, where basically he
is that with the family?
The family, yeah. Dreadful. So basically,
awful.
Yeah. He was having an affair. He murdered his wife and his 2 little girls, and then stuffed his girls in like some oil pipes, kind of way out of town. But he was really trying to cover it up. Look, I'll send you the link, Harry. It's all like the police tapes are there.
There's a documentary on Netflix about it, I think.
Yes, yeah, there is. It's awful.
Awful, man.
But then I watched a few days later, the police went to the house and they've got their body cams and they're walking around. So they're not filming themselves. They're just looking for evidence or whatever. But then you can hear his family like talking, and the cameras picked up the little girls talking, but they're dead at this point. But it's like might not even be them, but it's almost like something of them has imprinted onto the house or whatever, because it's such like an emotional upheaval. I feel like that kind of thing kind of imprints on to where you are, because you see a lot of things where if someone gets shot, you can hear like the bullets going off, but someone could have got shot 100 years ago, but you can still on occasion you can hear the bullets going off. That kind of
echo of it happening.
I think there's actually a phenomenon within the thing as the echoes of like the people or the incident and stuff just remain like on loop.
It's like an imprint, isn't it? Yeah. But yeah, so I've been saying, Harry, like with like the doors rattling and things, 100% believe it, because that's mostly my experience. So just to preface it, it's all around my ex, and she had borderline personality disorder. So I mean, Harry knows it. She was abusive towards me. I've had therapy, I'm fine. But her and her family, they had like an aura about them, where when I started to think about kind of ghost stuff, I just almost felt like they invited stuff in. And her mum told me some stories, but when someone tells you like a ghost story and you can tell they're not bullshit, and it's like they've gone down Tesco and bought some milk. It's so matter-of-factly to them. It's like that. And my ex told me some stories. I was like, that's really interesting, because I was really digging it. But there was like 3 things we were only together a year and a half. So I don't know if you guys know Plymouth very well. On the Barbican, you've got there's almost like a tunnel where there's loads of like old antique shops there.
Yeah.
Yep, I know.
I went. There was a jewelry shop, and it was a beautiful day. Like it's like no wind at all. I'm in this jewelry shop, and all of a sudden, like the door started just like really like violently shaking. But we didn't twig it because we were just like, oh, it's just the winds. And then all of a sudden, my ex, and the shop owner were like, "That's a bit weird, wasn't it?" And we're all just a bit like, ugh, bit freaked out. And then one of the other shop owners came down, and the shop's called Something Different, and I'd sent Harry the video, and he came down. We were like, "Oh, that was weird." Like the door started rattling, and he was like, "Oh, come up, watch this video." And so when Harry's saying there's lots of ghost stuff in Devon, went up to his shop, and in there he's got like a little 6-inch foam Mickey Mouse doll. Hasn't got any articulated limbs, so like the feet are stuck together.
Yeah.
And he's like, watch his video, and it's on YouTube, and it's just he's recording it overnight, and like the Mickey Mouse doll literally walks and then falls over. It doesn't. You could say, oh, it's been pushed by something, but it's up against the wall, and it literally like waddles.
Does it look like someone's picked up and kind of moved it with their hand, made it walk in that way?
It looks like there is something inside of it moving its limbs.
Oh,
I'm trying to find the video.
That's not
now.
a nice sentence, is it?
I'll send it over.
But there's a video of it, and he showed us some other things, like where there's some like black orbs, where he's in the back office. There's just black orbs flying around, and one of them hits this glass case, and you can see the door rattle. And he comes out, and he's like, "Where the fuck is it?"
I've just
anyway, that's kind of prefacing that.
I found the video of the toy. The thing is it's a recording of a CCTV screen, so it's not very clear.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, all the comments on this video are like, "I've been to this shop. I've spoken to the shop owner. He showed me the video.
The toy's still,
and this does no justice to it whatsoever."
The toy's still there. It's so weird. But then that kind of like leads on to the two big experiences I had. Again, I don't know, there's a thing called pareidolia where, like, I think if I was to kind of, if you were to look at a word and then I said what I think you should hear, you think of that word. There's something to do with ghosts like that. But we lived in an old farmhouse. We lived in a flat, so basically my living room window outside there was a sheer drop right down to the train tracks.
He's just watched the video. I've just seen his face. It's weird,
and I
right?
had
I don't like this
freaky.
episode, guys.
and I basically I had two kittens. I'm just sitting on the sofa one day, and at my window I can see something drop down. I was like, "What the f*** is that?" And then one of my kittens basically fallen off my roof down onto the train track. So I'm like, "Well, I'm not having this." So I strapped on a backpack, literally climbed down this. Luckily, there's all vines down this 20-foot drop. Got my cat, stuffed it in my backpack. It was clawing the hell out of me. Oh, fucking hell, Georgia just shut my door. I shit myself. Fuck me.
When we don't just pause randomly in the middle of this,
live
man.
ghost experiences. Jeez.
Like,
I'm going to go see it. And
I forgot to turn my light on, so I'm sitting in the dark right now.
So anyway, so put the cat in the bag, climbed back up, got back in. Every window was shut, and my cat. And prior to this, there was a little bit in the hallway, completely blank wall, but there was one point on the wall he would sit and stare and just meow at, and try and jump up and grab something. Well, that's a bit weird. Anyway, so then obviously got the cat Dennis back in the flat. And he's going mental because obviously he's really stressed out, and he's doing a cat. Yeah. So he's like bobbing around, screaming, going nuts. Every window's shut. It's a really lovely midsummer's day, and then me and my ex are screaming at each other because she's really angry, and my hands are cut to shreds. And then all of a sudden the bed, we didn't notice it at the time, but the bedroom door is like rattling, but then it's like violently shaking. But it wasn't until it was happening for a couple of, like, maybe it was only like 10 seconds, but it felt like it was going on for a while. We were like, "What the fuck?" And then when we stopped and everyone calmed down, the shaking stopped. I was like, oh, whoa, that's a bit
feeding off the energy, innit?
So I was like, oh, that's a bit odd. But I just kind of brushed it off. I hadn't seen anything, so I was like, whatever, it's fine. And then Dennis calmed down. It was right. He carried on doing his weird thing, staring at the point on the wall, whatever. It was a cat. But then we broke up, and it was an awful breakup. So I mean, Harry knows. I ended up in therapy after because she absolutely was a dreadful human. And then she came over. Yeah, she came over one evening to pick up some stuff. We ended up getting into an argument, and then we were in the bedroom, just hurling insults, whatever. And then and I could see it. I actually see it happening. We had a dimmer switch by the beds, and the light started going off and on. It had never done that. The bulb it wasn't like it was flickering. Someone had the dimmer switch and was doing that, turning it off and on. And then my ex was like, he doesn't want me here, I've got to go. And she just left. And I'm like, and you're going to leave me with this? And then she
already personified it. She went, he doesn't want me here.
Yeah, he said he doesn't want me here. And she went, and then I was like, oh, I was like, yeah. And that's when I was like, she's haunted. But then she went, but then I kind of sat and I thought about it. I was like, well, this ghost obviously just doesn't like anyone being eggy. He just wants a nice, peaceful life. So I was like, as long as I'm all right, he's all right. So then, but nothing bad happened. So I was always quite like, I know, he's all right. And then I looked into it. And what I think he was like a soldier who died during Second World War. Because the road I lived on was called Normandy Hill, named after, because loads of soldiers were stationed there because it was right on the Tamar. So loads of soldiers basically sailed off to the Normandy beach, D-Day landings. So I like to think that he was like a nice ghost, just wanted a bit of peace and quiet. That he just sat there, and every time there was a bit of flinging going on, he was showing it down.
I like the idea. He's like a housemate. I've emptied the bins twice.
Yeah. What's he paying me rent? But it's funny because I never felt scared. Like when I twigged, I was like, oh, there's a ghost here. I never felt like concerned. Like there was no like bad vibes with it. Like I've been in places like George always jokes because I'm convinced I can feel a ghost. But whenever we go to like a national trust, and we go in the old houses, she's like, I'm not, it's haunted, can't it be? It's haunted. But it felt like it was just a nice ghost. A really weird thing. So I never felt worried. But then when Harry, you say, we're going to go do like an evening, evening in a haunted building, I would shit myself because there's some bad jujus with some ghost man.
I think that's what the episode should be called. It should be called Paranormality Bad Juju Edition.
Bad Juju Man. Yeah. Did you guys ever go to that? There was like an abandoned World War II Polish camp outside Trading Mills.
Yes, it was redeveloped recently.
Do you remember?
Yeah, it's called. Not Hello House. What was it called? Oh, I've completely forgotten what it's called now. While you talk about it, James, I'll search for it.
Yeah. So I think I might be wrong, but I think it was like it was just a camp set up for Polish people during World War II.
It was, yeah.
Hospital in the infirmary and all this sort of stuff. But obviously, by the time that we got there,
that's what it's called.
It was derelict, abandoned. There was like everything there. So we walked around there as many times at night as we could with just glow sticks as a source of light.
Yeah.
And I never saw anything too like that would make me go, oh my God, that's it, but it's just your mind starts to overwork and turn. And I swear I saw a wheelchair move by itself. And then that was me done at that point. I probably did. It got to a point where because it was so, the second we got to the hospital area, that's when I think all of us were like,
ooh,
this is too. Yeah, this is too.
Making my bum go funny listening to it.
Yeah, it was like 3 a.m. and we were there just with glow sticks trying to wake our way around. It was
nowadays.
3 o'clock, which an hour, yeah. Definitely interesting. But I never saw anything. It was just scared the absolute bejeebies out of me, which is why I've never been like anti-ghost. It's because why would I feel that fear if I don't believe in it in some way? Like if I had no belief, then I would just walk through it fine. Like, no, whatever. Was that? Is that a coyote? Who cares? But no, I generally terrified. So yeah.
The most like compelling evidence that I've seen, because when you're saying about TikTok, Harry, like there's so many people trying to be TikTok famous, and they will clearly stage something.
Yeah.
And the worst one in terms of the most compelling is a YouTube channel called Really Haunted, and it's just some like big burly northern bloke he was just so like, oh, for fuck's sake. But then this ghost like terrorizes him, and you can tell it's. I think you can always tell it's real because he's like, there's no production value to it. He's got like a camera up in his tiny living room. Overnight, the sofa will just fling across the room, and then there was one where you can see kind of something on the bed moving, and his wife's hair goes up. And she gets yanked out of bed. It's sort of a Paranormal Activity. But you
I was to say that's the exact scene from Paranormal Activity.
Yeah, but it just feels authentic. And then I was watching one where his wife was like, "I've had enough of this. I'm staying at my mum's for a bit." And he's like, "Yeah, right, love, whatever." And then
Wouldn't you call the ghost a bastard or something?
it probably. Oh, you mean you would do, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It's touch your mind. And there's one bit where there's a bit where like he's standing in front of the door. And like you can't see the ghost, but he gets punched in the chest, and he goes flying back. And he's not good of an actor, and he's like by the door. He's like, oh, and he's like properly winded. And then the ghost is on the other side of the door this time, literally like banging against the door, and he's sitting on the door, just like, leave me alone. And he's like rattling around because his door's going clappers behind him. But really haunted. It's absolutely amazing.
Just that you know, I'm never going to watch that. Thanks for telling me.
And you've just unconvinced him to do the ghost tour that we were thinking of doing.
Oh, yeah, I'll take your spot.
Devon and Cornwall.
I'm there.
Devon and Cornwall are like hotbeds for this sort of stuff. It's not something that I've particularly looked into, but it's something that I'm much more interested in looking into. And just doing like a week of like research into it. Plymouth is just insane for how many hauntings there have potentially been. To the point where I don't even want to go to Plymouth just on like, oh, we'll go to the aquarium. No, because there's a haunted jellyfish and it will kill me.
I don't want to go because it's yeah.
And that is kind of a big piece.
Because my office is there, so I don't want to go there.
Yeah,
I lived there. It's rough.
One of the things that I've always sort of stated is that I'll believe things when I see them. But Shannon, when she told me that story, I was thinking about it a few weeks ago when I knew that we were starting the show again, and I had like a conversation with her, and I can still picture like the look that she had when she was retelling the story of like, I really don't want to talk about this. It was like this really like guttural feeling of like, I really didn't enjoy that experience. I do not want that again. Completely changed my mind on it. But you've watched the Mickey Mouse toy video. What did you think, James?
Quality's terrible, like 3 out of 5. No, I'm generally terrified of dolls now, so that's a fun thing for me.
I just remember one.
It moved unhumanly. Like you can tell it didn't. It wasn't
like
yanked. It wasn't pulled.
It moved in a way.
It wasn't like a You Been Framed video.
No,
but I haven't got anything to kind of explain what it's like. It's not like it's got 2 separate legs. It's just got it's got that kind of, if you had like an ice cream, it would be that kind of thing where the legs are just one piece. But it walks. It's crazy. Yeah, it's absolutely nuts. It's almost like someone had like a wind up pulley in it and kind of set it off. But it's just a little foam toy you can hold in your hand.
Yeah,
crazy.
Like you said, it's a horrible sentence, but it's like something's inside of it.
That is exactly what it looks like. It's just. It's very very not nice. But I knew you were watching the video because your entire room went blue as you got the video up, and I could see you.
Oh right, okay. I thought you meant behind me. I was like,
no, like the whole like the light from the screen just like completely lit you up blue, and I could see you very faintly looking. And then as soon as it happened,
figure out what was going on.
As soon as it happened, you just stuck your tongue out, and you're like, "Nope, done. That's awful." Well, I enjoyed this. I've enjoyed this ghost episode. What about you, James?
Yeah, I've always my mum's always been into it. There's a couple of instances with my mum if we've got time, but if not, I can just
go for it.
So we were moving out of a house once, and there was a gold ring in an upstairs cupboard that belonged to none of us. It was there from previous before. It was just hidden under a bit of carpet. and she went to pick it up, and she went ghost, like just ghost white, dropped it, and then locked that cupboard, and she's like, "We're moving."
I thought you
Like-
said she picked up and went ghost and then just flung it.
Yeah, she's like precious. No, yeah, and at that point, I was like, that's a bit, because she's kind of into this level of ghosts and stuff, and we had a woman come round like when I was about 10, 11. Mum hadn't seen her in years, and just went like, "Your dad's trying to speak to me." And my granddad died when I was like 6 months old. Unfortunately, so I never knew him. He's been dead like for years before
Like
that.
over a decade.
And she came round over easily, yeah. And she's like, "Your dad's trying to speak to you. I need to speak to you." So on the lounge, I didn't know my mum let me sit on this. I was 11. If you listen to me, Mum, you've ruined me. But she lit a candle, and my mum was getting her dad, air quoting here, to like move the candle up and down.
Oh no!
Which was weird. Then my mum was telling us that when she was
Did you
younger,
see that
she used
happen
to. I did see that happen. I was quite freaked out about that. And then my mum told me that when she was growing up, she used to see her dad come and sit at the end of a bed, dressed as a ghost, and she could feel his weight on the end of the bed and stuff. It wasn't threatening weight, but it was like a weight she could tell was her dad. And the reason it was a ghost is because he used to have these big red shoes he used to wear.
Why are you telling us all of this 5 minutes from the end of the show, James? What's going on here? This is amazing.
Gold.
Can we get your mum onto an episode?
Oh no, she'll take over. She's the best person in the world. So she was telling me the story. They would stay at my nan's, and then bit freaked out, and then I heard the door slowly start to creak open. Right, bit freaked out. I was lying in the bed, like I was only like 13 or whatever. It's a good time after, but still the memories stuck in my head. I was sitting there with like underneath my quilt, like shivering from fear, and then I felt the weight on the end of the bed, as my mum described. Right, it was my nan's dog.
Oh,
You absolute.
I love the setup. Great.
No, all that did true, but yeah, it was
the
this
dog wearing
timing
red
of,
shoes.
it was it was a big heavy staffy, so it felt like human weight, but that
So
fear I
mum
had that night was
your mum has had experiences then.
oh no,
Because my mum is massively spiritual, not religious but spiritual.
yeah,
And
that's the phrase to use. Sorry,
yeah,
spiritual.
she went to see a psychic medium just after my granddad had passed away, and she had a séance, and one of the things that happened was that there was like this small boy that was communicating with her, and it turned out that a small boy had passed away in the home that we lived in Torquay, like 20, 30 years prior. No one knew this, but then we spoke to the landlord afterwards, and we were like, my mum was like, we had this seance and we picked up apparently the spirit of a young boy. What, do you know any history of this building? And she was like, oh yeah, this boy died like 30 years ago in the garden. He was like 4 or 5 years old, and she was like, the boy we spoke to was 4 years old and told us to move house. And we did. My mum was like, yeah, we're out, see you later. And she moved house like a month later. Your story about your mum picking up the ring reminded me of that when she was like, we have to move house, because the same thing.
It was very much like, I think we were moving anyway, but it was very much like,
but that's a memory that I genuinely have not thought
Yeah.
about that memory in like maybe 15 years. And yeah, I remember the woman coming round to the house and my mum being like, you need to go upstairs, you need to go and play in your room.
How weird it would be if it was the same house, because that was in Torquay.
It was on Windy Ridge.
Oh, I don't know.
No.
Can you imagine?
It could be.
I would
Who knows?
give up the podcast.
I mean,
at
the
this
thing
point.
is the problem is that there is more than one house in Torquay. That's the problem. If there was only one house in Torquay, then it probably would be. But yeah,
Foiled again.
Fooled again.
If you
Go on.
wanted to watch a fun ghost hunter, just to ease yourself into it, Chinese guys are very funny because they believe you need to insult the ghosts, but they go into old schools just screaming like "F your mother" in Chinese over and over again. Or I said this to Harry, like Saudi Arabian ghost hunters and nutters. So whereas like we creep around corners and being like, oh no, there's a ball that's moved. There's one I watched the other day, and I'll never finish it up. And the ghost slammed the door, and he's like, no, you. He like blew
Picks
the
it
door
back
open.
open, yeah.
He was literally having like a kicking match with this door.
Honestly, we were talking about the Russell Crowe episode of South Park before that. That's just feeding into the idea.
That's
again,
so
isn't it?
funny.
In the Middle Eastern countries, they call them jinn.
Yeah, they're creatures in D&D. It's the only reason I know that.
Yeah, but they're mental because they're just like they don't care.
Yeah,
But they're so
I love that.
terrifying.
it's not like most
I like
haunted.
we say ease into it like it's gateway drugs.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
have a
starting off
spliff.
slowly. Yeah.
Yeah, then slowly introduce you to the heroin of haunted videos.
Your first one's free. Don't worry. Well, Duncan, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, that was really fun.
I've had a really fun time talking about ghosts, and we will do another ghost episode soon, Duncan, if you want to come on again. We maybe
All right,
please,
we'll do like a ghost off where we'll all try and find like our most compelling videos, and we'll show each other like 3 or 4 very compelling videos, and we'll talk about them. That could be an idea.
Funny enough, like when you talk about TikTok, because I've kind of pretty much given up on gaming stuff because it's just not fun. But I almost wanted to do like my own little ghost TikTok channel. But is this real or fake? Because I think I've got a pretty good eye now.
Yeah.
If I can figure out what's a fake one, if it's been staged or not. So that's a good idea, actually.
Fake or real with Duncan voice. I like that. But no, thank you very much for joining us, Duncan. I've had a very, very good
Thanks for
time.
having me, lads.
It's been
Yeah,
good.
me too.
James, are you suitably terrified now?
Oh yeah, always. Every episode.
Good.
It's decreasing my age per episode.
Well,
so
next
that's
episode
something.
shouldn't be quite so terrifying. We'll do a very quick sort of like breakdown of what we're going to do next week. So we're going to do a film review, sort of. Me and James have recently watched Nope. Nope is the reason that I'm doing this podcast again. It was so good. And the
So
themes that it brought up in terms of what the phenomenon is was so on point with what I believe that I literally messaged James halfway through watching the film, and I was like, we need to start doing Paranormality again, please. And James was like, 100% yes, let's do it. So next
100%.
week, we'll be talking about the Jordan Peele film Nope. In a couple of weeks, we'll be back doing one of our cold cases. I spoke to James just before the podcast starts. I think it's going to be on near misses between UFOs and commercial airliners in the UK. I've got 5 or 6 different cases that we can go through. And then after that, who knows, maybe a bit more spooks. Who knows?
Spookies.
Some more spooks. So, Duncan, thank you very much for being on. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, cheers, Duncan.
Cheers, lads.
And it's time for my cheesy sign off. Open your mind and watch the skies. And we'll speak to you next week. Bye.